Welcome, welcome, welcome. Has anybody seen these sunsets the last couple days? Wow. Yes. Yeah. Really nice to have a human body when you see something that beautiful. Yeah, just kind of blows you away. I'm Eve. For those who I haven't met, there's some unfamiliar faces. Welcome, welcome. And for everyone else, welcome, welcome. Make yourself at home. This is the Wednesday night Well of Being, and we are making our way through this text by Tsoknyi Rinpoche, Open Heart, Open Mind. No problem if this is your first time here. Tonight we are going to be focusing, I think tonight and probably next week, we're going to be focusing on his chapter around the body, mindfulness of the body. And I really love the way that he kind of slowly and gently invites us to go from a sense of interest and curiosity to wonder and awe at having a body. And I really felt that, kind of getting ready for teaching in the last couple of days, really trying to remember I have a body when big experiences happen, whether difficult or beautiful. And it's pretty, like my tea just tasted like the best thing I've ever tasted, because I was remembering to notice what it's like to have like a warm tea when you come out of the cold, and just that kind of specificity of phenomenal experience, really being there for it. So we're actually going to start with a bit of a shorter sit, and then do a bit of discussion and reflection, and then do a longer sit. Because mindfulness of the body, also often associated with the practice of mindfulness of form, it has so much depth. I think most of us, has anyone in this room not done a body scan? Right? Like it's so prevalent, like this, simple form of attending to the body, literally, and I love that, attending to the body, bringing our attention to the body, bringing our attention with the body, in the body. It's such a simple form of practice. You can almost miss out and be like, yeah, I did that, relaxing. But it really can take you all the way to insight into interdependence, insight into emptiness, insight into kind of the actual kind of formless nature of form itself. So I don't want to promise all that tonight, but we will at least start kind of poking in to this practice. And the first part is we're going to, bring attention and awareness to the body. And in this chapter, he offers two different ways to orient with our posture. One that's very simple, that we can do anywhere, anytime, and we'll start with that one. And then we'll kind of re-engage in 7-point posture for the second sit. And so his simple instruction for the anywhere, anytime is, just really becoming aware of the uprightness of our spine, relaxing the body, and then whether you are seated cross-legged or have your feet on the floor, just feeling the ground. So this relaxing in the body, uprightness, feeling the support. And usually this part of the practice we kind of move through quickly, but let's give ourselves a moment to really notice what it's like in this embodied way, to align our posture for practice. We'll get into this more in the longer sit, but really noticing where is the head resting on the top of the neck, and how does that make not only your spine feel, but how does that make your chest feel? How does that make your face feel? And so playing a little bit with resting the head in a way that's supportive, maybe the chin just a little bit tucked. And we'll begin with this simple, elegant practice of scanning or bringing close attention to the body. So bringing attention and awareness to the top of the head, to the crown. Not trying to make the crown feel one way or another, just as though we are brushing our attention onto the crown and now to the back of the head. Continuing to bring our attention around the neck and the shoulders. And wrapping around the front to bring attention to the face. And this attention is curious and bright, as much as possible without any kind of pushing or pulling away of whatever we experience here. Just this curious attention, this kind attention, noticing the face from the forehead through the eyes, the cheekbones and the jaw. Finding this closeness of resting the mind in the body, resting the body in the mind, and continuing to bring attention now to the front of the neck, the collarbones, the chest. Once again, the shoulders, and this time the shoulder blades. Bringing attention to the upper back and the lower back. And wrapping around to the front, once again to the chest, upper rib cage, lower rib cage, the belly. So much to attend to here. Bringing our attention to the right shoulder and bicep, wrapping around the forearm, over the top of the palm, over the top of the hand. To the left shoulder and bicep, forearm, the palm, the top of the hand. And without getting tight, see if we can really brighten our attention. There's enough here for us to attend to for hours. If we really open up our attention to the experience of just noticing, moving with these sensations in the body. Now, paying attention to the buttocks, the right thigh, the left thigh, the right kneecap and shin and calf, top of the foot, sole of the foot, all the way to the toes. And repeating on the left side to the kneecap, the shin, the calf, sole of the foot, top of the foot and the toes. And for a couple breaths, feeling and sensing, scanning this experience of being in the entire body. Right here, this body, this moment. And as we are attending to the body, maybe certain sensations arise and we notice them. Maybe there's an itch or an ache, maybe a chill. And bringing this kind and curious attention, noticing whatever arises as it arises, as much as possible without any story, without any agenda of having it go away. Just simple noticing, mindfulness of sensation as it arises. And for just a couple more moments, as Tsoknyi so beautifully says, caress your body with attention. That loving attention, that caressing attention with whatever sensation arises. Thank you for your practice. So in this chapter, Tsoknyi starts, this whole book is really simple instructions on the entire spiritual path. It's quite complete. So we're at this phase. He kind of laid out for us this understanding of how we get confused, how we develop a sense of I, right? And how that can cover over what he describes as that essence love, that core aspect of who we truly are. And in this part, he helps us start to work with the body. And it has a couple different purposes, partially to help us get a little more sane, to be here, to be in the body, not moving around the mind quite so frenetically. And another part, that he highlights in kind of just these simple glimpses throughout, is to develop like this wonder and appreciation for having a body. So the last time we were here, kind of talking about the preciousness of human life. So that's one way we can think about that appreciation for having a human body. But these mindfulness of body practices as that kind of doorway into almost a sense of awe, a sense of gratitude for the body. And that's not always easy for everyone, for so many good reasons, right? And so it's interesting. I guess I wouldn't exactly call this book trauma informed. It's definitely compassion informed, but there's a lot of ways, either through society and culture, through our families of origin, through difficult life experiences, where being in the body either feels awkward, imperfect, maybe aching, maybe unsafe, right? So there's a little bit of a baseline assumption with these practices that we know how to be in the body. And that's not always true. And even for some of us, that's not true all the time, right? So I think it's interesting to think about the ways that we get kind of popped out of the body, or the ways that we struggle to be in the body as it is, and our common kind of go-tos to not be in the body. So I wanted to actually have a little bit of discussion around that before we move forward. And just as a friendly reminder and kind of a recommitment, is our ability to be here together in Sangha is truly precious. And in order to do so in a supportive way, the engagement of discussion has to be just as kind of as much intention, as much care as our practice itself. So that when we are listening and when we are speaking, we are doing so with that heart of compassion. And sometimes that means, sometimes our heart of compassion is like, I'm not going to speak, right? Because either what I have to share feels like it could be too much for this group, or I want to hear other people in this group. Sometimes we're like, I'm going to share because I've never shared. I see you all, appreciate you, no problem and no pressure. But, just feeling into, right, like what feels like compassionate for not just ourselves, but this community here. And then the tricky part is not judging ourselves if we do speak, right, about what we said or how we said it. And then just as tricky, not judging others in what they say or how they say it or how they could have said it in this way or this, that, or the other. Like we get to do this experiment together of holding each other with compassion, right? And remembering that we just don't know what's going on with everyone in this room. You think you know, you just don't know. Even if you live with that person, So how does that sound to everyone? Yes? Great. So yeah, I think my first question is for folks, I'd be curious, what are the kind of ways that you get, like I'd say, kind of popped out of the body, or what makes you not want to be in the body? And I'm saying the body, I know it's a very Buddhist teacher thing to do, but there's a way in which, of course, our speech is very instructive to how we see ourselves in the world. So when you say the body, the hope is that you kind of disentangle a little bit of that, my body, right? so precious and important, and the body, creating a little bit of not this like dissociative distance, but just, yeah, the body. So just to unpack that. So yeah, what are the ways folks find themselves like, no, I'm out, can't be with this feeling in the body, don't want to be with this in the body? Yes, in the back. So for friends in the room, we use that mic so our friends online can hear. It's not really amplified.
Hi. So with like the body scan, right? I always have a little bit of trouble with the body scan only because I was in a major car accident and I broke my spine in 3 places and I have a cage built in my spine. So I spend so much time like ignoring that pain,
Yes.
right? And so when I do the body scan, it's a different experience for me to be able to like move through where my head is and on the neck because it's the upper spine, and like and just be aware of the pain that's there and like move on with my scan. It's like kind of a bittersweet type of thing. So it's a good experience instead of like constantly having that as a negative in my life and then being able to like scan it, feel it, and move on, So I'm really grateful for it.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, I really, if there's anyone in this room who has absolutely no pain, I rejoice. And most of us have various levels, right? And sometimes we're like, oh, I'm just not feeling good today. I'm not going to do this, right? I'm not going to practice. And that might be skillful means, but to hear what you're sharing, it's, a reminder like, wow, we can work with so many different aspects of pain or discomfort and really learn to do so. I can just hear the compassion in what you're saying with your body and experience. Thank you. Other folks, what makes you have a kind of like, nah, I'm good, I'm not going to focus on the body? And or what are your go-to things you'd like to do to distract from being in the body? Yes.
I think when I have sensations that I'm not used to having, like I have a lot of back pain, I get a lot of headaches, I can kind of sit with that. But when it's something that's like abnormal or not that common, like I'm feeling really nauseous, I really don't want to sit with that because it's like the more I sit and like not even think about it, but just feel it, it like amplifies it. And so I think in those times, I will do anything but try to like sleep or, take a nap or put on a show or read a book. But just like, or walk, but like not wanting to be in my body at all.
And again, like that can be really skillful. It's not that when we have pain, we're like, we gotta sit with it, right? I think it's interesting to notice, like nausea, indigestion for me is one that I really like. I'm like, I can't do this. And it's like, really? Like, can you not? It's a very like, oh, and it's not that like, it's like, I shouldn't have to. Like there's like an attitude too. It's interesting. We have this funny relationship with anybody? Funny relationship with your body? And it's, it's interesting. So when we bring mindfulness to it, like we're kind of bringing, like, I love that like caress of attention. Like that's so sweet. I had a colleague tell me a couple months ago, it was really surprising to me. She said, I never do anything nice for my body. And said it in this way, like, of course, like baths, even lotion. No. And I was like, oh my God. It felt like, okay. And I didn't follow that road because we didn't have enough time and maybe that wasn't an appropriate place to go. But like, how do we, orient towards this body? And it's interesting because, the entire last text we read of the Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life that took forever is like cut through self-cherishing. The only way for bodhicitta to really naturally arise is cut through. So then it's like, wait, I get to take a bath breath and wear nice oils? Like, you know, how do I find that balance? And I think mindfulness of the body is a great instruction for that. Like, we're not like, you know, breathing and scanning like, God, my elbow's so great. Just, it's so pointy and it's just awesome. You know, like there's not like this grasping or this like over, you know, kind of emphasis on the goodness. But there is this like simple living into the truth of having a body, right? And then as we'll do in the next phase, having a body that's always changing. You know, having a body that's moving in one direction, if we're lucky, right? That is aging and possibly sickness and then dying. So it's like, how do we both love and like see clearly like the truth of this body? It's a really delicate, and it's funny how these little things can like throw us into like kind of a conflict relationship with our body. Like, I thought we had a deal here. I don't want to feel this. Like, so it's, and then some of us have that ongoing, right? Like, it can be really challenging to ever have a sense of like, I like my body, you know, for, again, unbelievable volumes of reasons that I'm sure we're all familiar with, whether, again, it's from our family or society or some other experience we had. So developing this loving relatedness with the body is, it's not small. It's like, oh, mindfulness of the body, no problem, check. It's like, no, this is hard. Yeah. Other thoughts or reflections on that? Yes, Timmy.
I've been really, really physically active all of my life, but I spent decades while I was doing that completely out of my body, completely ignoring it. And I ended up becoming injured a lot when I was a young man. And I finally started paying attention to my body and trying to actually be in it when I was engaging on all these various activities, so that I stopped injuring myself and was able to start healing from some of that stuff. And I also had a very interesting experience when I was in my late 30s and into my early 40s. My partner was disabled for about 10 years and spent time literally in a wheelchair, and we would go about together with her in this wheelchair situation. And I became very, very much aware of the fact that we are all what was called back then tabs, temporarily able-bodied. And as I get older, I'm really lucky because my physical body is in relatively good shape and without major problems or disabilities, and I can continue to do a lot of the things that I like to do, and I can continue to be in the world in a very privileged position of continuing into my 70s being able-bodied still. And it's only really in the last 6 years or so that I've really begun to appreciate that.
Wow.
But it's still hard for me to be in my body sometimes because I hurt a lot
Yeah.
from the past abuse that I've done to my body, and I have certain aches and pains and arthritic situations and other challenges that come up. But it's nevertheless, I'm really, really appreciative of my body, and that it's as comfortable as it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. 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 I'm going to do the two more in the room. Yeah.
What shall we first?
Please go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, Jimmy. I resent attitudes towards certain bodies. I have cerebral palsy. I've had it since birth. So I'm very aware. I often do walking meditation daily. And in fact, every time I hear walking meditation instructions, I want to go for the drug dealer. And I've been to meditation retreats where I see people doing meditation, walking meditation. And I just get really pissed off because I have to be conscious of walking all the time. And it's resentful that people don't realize how, and I'm very aware of my privilege as not being that severely disabled. I don't use a wheelchair. I have fair eyesight, although with age, that's going, and hearing and so on. But it is, I think in the Dharma community, we talk about all the isms, and I think it's really important, since we are talking about the body, how we're all subject to ableism.
Yeah.
I am very ableist, just like I am in general, not sexism and racism, homophobia, and exact on and on. And I think if we talk about the body, we really have to appreciate what we have in the body.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate, and sometimes I am not my body. I am my body. I mean, I consider my cerebral palsy as my Dharma. It's a constant Dharma
Yeah.
for me, and it's not who I am either.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you, Noemi. Beautiful. Yes, please.
I was about 17, 18 years old, and I was going to school in my little car, really, and somebody came from the side and hit me, and my car completely was in his head against a tree. Nothing happened to me.
Wow.
Except, of course, he came and opened up the door with a lot of effort, and I went out. And I told him, would you please come with me to my house walking? He said, yes, of course. And we were like 6, 7 blocks from my house. And I wasn't feeling any pain. I couldn't talk. What could I say? And my 2 parents were in the house. and I told them what happened. So both of them said, let's go and see the car. And they went to the car, and my mom started, she couldn't believe it. She thought it was amazing that I was alive. And my father was yellow, yellow. And my father thought he was a nice man. He told him, take your car to the manhood, hit me, and you come to our house, to our home, and you tell me how much it cost you, because I'm gonna pay for you. And well, I remember that of my father, and I always remember him as a very nice person. But I also remember how for months and months I couldn't sleep. I was in bed. I felt that I fell all the time to the floor. And well, that eventually left this horrible feeling. And now that I'm talking about that, I'm not a believer in God, but I thank you, God, that nothing happened to him and to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The car was never possible to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's my story.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think those moments too can really give us that sense of preciousness of, and even if we remember them now, you know, just really going on.
Hi.
Hi
I'm
there.
New here.
Yes, welcome.
But I wanted to talk about lately, the universe has been testing me with 2 chronic illnesses, one of which causes me pretty severe digestive issues, and the other has caused chronic fatigue syndrome. So it makes very basic human activities pretty hard. So like eating a meal is hard and can cause anxiety prior to that. And then just going to the grocery store, walking upstairs is hard. So lately it's felt like hard to have a body.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone can relate in whatever way.
Yeah.
But I was aligning with what you were saying, Jimmy, is your name? About I've totally neglected my body, I think, and was not giving it enough love and care. And I think that's why I got both of these chronic illnesses. So it has taught me to become more in the body and pay more attention to my health and just pay attention to the signals that my body is giving me, because that's the most important thing we can do is we have this body forever, so to take care of it. And it has brought me some very amazing things as well as struggles, such as it's brought me closer to meditation and finally making a meditation practice for myself. I've been close to it all my life. Yeah, and brought me to this place, so I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. What's your name?
I'm Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. Oh, okay. But it's surprising to have 2 Mackenzies in one room.
Who else is Mackenzie?
You guys should talk later.
I'll hit you up.
And so how was that body scan practice for you? Was that like...
It is okay. I actually think in what I've been learning about meditation, the most powerful thing to keep me, because my mind wanders, but bringing me back, I think the most important or helpful thing was to actually feel into the body and feel present with that. And somebody was like, really focus on different areas of your body, and I swear to God, I can feel the cells vibrating if you really pay attention to that part of your body.
Beautiful.
So even though it has pain in, like, especially my legs, it has not been the worst thing. It's helped me ground it and be appreciative of that I have this body and that it's temporary.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And I really just appreciate the transparency and the openness of what folks share. I think it makes the practice feel so much more grounded, but also our shared humanity so much more true and relatable, right? And it is, I mean, yeah, at best, extremely awkward having a human body. And it's funny that I mean, at least I'll speak for myself, like move around the world as though like, oh, it's totally normal to just have a body. Like, it's not. So many, like right now, my nose is running and I have this like horrible, like, it's not a tissue, and I'm like, ouch, just all, and then I'm like, am I gonna just, there's so many things to manage. And there's like this sense that, we should somehow have this composure. Oh, see, Bodhisattva, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a nice opportunity for compassion when we share our suffering. Yeah, it's really, I think, quite humbling, to recognize that. And, for any of us, and, as Jimmy was sharing and Noemi was sharing, for any of us who, have either been close to or ourselves experienced difficulty, just functioning in our own body, it's so humbling, just so humbling. So back to the chapter here, he does bring up scanning and then noticing, or the first two practices, and we did those, right? The kind of scan. And just to highlight the difference, it's interesting, this, in some ways, it's like a very light touch of noticing in the body. And he does say, there's a really nice line. He says it's a handshake between the mind and the body. And as some of you know, handshake practice is such a beautiful one that we often do here in this Sangha. And this idea of like really that, also that resting of the mind in the body, like when it feels safe enough and okay enough to be in the body, there can be that like, I have a place to be, like my mind has a place to rest. And then that kind of both and. In preparing for tonight, I was re-listening to this beautiful podcast I highly recommend with the Buddhist teacher named Anne Klein. Some of you might know her. And her teachings on embodiment are so beautiful. And it's not the only thing she teaches. But, she was just talking about, the subtlety at which we can experience the body. And some folks in the room might be familiar with, for sure, Erica, with microphenomenology. This is a specific methodology coming out of contemplative science, with the science looking at consciousness. And microphenomenology is kind of what it sounds like. It's a process of getting very small, very granular on the phenomenal experiences as we have them. And it's a tool that was designed to study consciousness and meditation. So you do a meditation study and you ask someone after, how mindful do you feel on these various scales and subscales? And that gives you some idea of how people are doing. But it would be wonderful if they could just report to you in a very informed way what was going on in their practice. And some of us in the small group, when we practice on the half days, we do try to bring that granularity. How was the clarity? How was the stability? And we can do this kind of microphenomenology of the body as our practice. And today, many of you know I'm going through, a loss and a grief. And today I really got to do a microphenomenology of like a wave of grief. And I was like, that's why they call it a wave. Like it was like under the belly. And then it came like up to the heart. And then like here. And then, and then it didn't crest. There was no barrel, there's no surfer jokes. But it was interesting. And then I realized that like very often in the last couple days when I'm like with, doing things or with people in which maybe I don't feel it's okay to have that grief, I will just like block it right here at like the very base of the wave. See you, like just kind of like, you can like block that wave here. You can block that wave. So it's very interesting kind of how much specificity that we can apply and how much knowing that we can kind of develop with our own body and our own process. And that is in some ways like the promise of mindfulness of breathing and mindfulness of mindfulness of body and mindfulness of form, is gaining that insight into not just, yes, I have a body, I'm able to be in this body, but this body is always changing, always changing. So one thing Tsoknyi Rinpoche brings up in the chapter, really briefly, is around how mindfulness of body is sometimes translated as mindfulness of form, a practice that extends attention to all forms, furniture and other things we find in a room, on the street, in a restaurant, a practice of grounding ourselves in the relative reality in which we function. Meaning, I'll read this next paragraph here. He says, ordinarily our habit of visual perception is a bit fuzzy. We don't really see the kitchen table clearly. We don't see our hands distinctly. They become generalized objects. Right? So we're not as clear with the forms because we're like, yeah, that's my hand. Like we're not actually paying attention anymore. We see a truck and we're like, yeah, it's a truck. So this idea of that like close, precise attention, that as we bring that attention, it can possibly actually, I want to use a really appropriate word. You could say like dissolve the form, but I would say kind of like interpenetrate the form, help us see within it. I mean, it's really hard, like looking at any of these chairs in the room to be like, there is actually emptiness in the form of these chairs. You're like, I hope not. Like, I want this to support my weight. I don't like the emptiness in the form. But when we apply it to the body, we can see that so-called emptiness quality by feeling and sensing, like the wave of grief, or the itch, or the runny nose. Right? We see these are not, this body, which is one kind of thing, is actually, made up of all these constituent things, and which is always shifting and changing. And needless to say, it's almost primarily made out of water, so is fluid, at one level. And I like this way of how we can start using mindfulness of the body to kind of see more clearly that possibility of the emptiness of form, which, for many of us, we've listened to the Heart Sutra like 7 billion times, and we're like, what? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form is no other than emptiness, and emptiness is not, what? Right? So, sorry, I said that fast, but that is kind of how fast they often say it. And, the promise of that seeing, the promise of being able to recognize the emptiness of form or the always changing nature of everything is there's a freedom there, right? There's that freedom of, well, if everything's changing, I don't have to get so hung up on it being this one way. Like there's that freedom there. And the other part, which is interesting, is when we recognize, like this isn't, the chair isn't just the chair. And this is such classic teaching. It's made up of, all these different mineral elements and probably plastic elements and synthetic elements. And it actually represents whatever factory made it, whatever truck brought it here. Like it's not just a chair. Like it's all these composite component factors, just as we are. So that attention, that close attention, shows us not only the ever-changing, but like the all-connected. So just this one simple practice brings us these like fundamental aspects of the entire Buddhist path, like right there. And so he mentions this briefly, but I want to go in, and here I'm talking certainly a bit more from like the Vairochana or Dzogchen approach of looking at form as this kind of, it's almost like when we are experiencing form, whether that's a thought or, seeing something in front of us, there's a possibility of actually seeing it as the, like the dance with awareness and the unmanifest, like almost as though, anything that's arising is in and of itself always shifting and changing, and mindfulness to it, we see this, it's almost like, gosh, it's a terrible analogy, but it's what's coming to me, so I'm sorry. Where's that point where Neo in the Matrix, he sees all the ones and the zeros, right? Like when we actually look that close, when we bring our mindfulness that close, we're like, oh, it's just that. Not this huge story that we're carrying around about who we are and what that is, right? There's just beautiful possibility. There's Longchenpa has he has this beautiful quote here. Let form arise, let form dissolve, do nothing in between. You know, just letting whatever form, and whether it's something like, I mean, I loved letting the form of that like banging sound system that reverberated our windows, right? It was like, yeah, like let it arise, let it dissolve. Sad it wasn't apple bottom jeans. Like never live that one down. That was hilarious. That was playing here, and all of us are like, oh. It was like outside for a while. Anyway, whew, that was funny. But I just love this idea of like, you don't do anything. And this practice, you know, that we're going to do another practice now, like the practice is like letting it all arise. Do nothing. So it's interesting. It's not that dissimilar to noticing our sensations like we just did in practice. But there's a different intention, like a different motivation. Like, oh, wow, I am seeing this so clearly because this actually might give me the wisdom, the direct wisdom, knowing, and insight to see through all things. Like that's a bigger, yeah, like the motivation is like higher frequency with that. There's, yeah, and then in the Satipatthana Sutta, it's in the body, see no body, only momentary appearances. So like this, again, this idea that the body is all of these different experiences coming up together. Yeah, it's a really sweet one, this possibility of starting to kind of see the like, you know, like formless awareness. You know, I don't want to get too deep into that because it can get a little too heady. I want us to try to practice it instead. And I think the cool thing is what Tsoknyi links then is like this really clear seeing of attention, attending so closely to the body that it can, you know, while our habit historically may have been like bringing close attention and not appreciating aspects of our body. Like if we can bring that quality of appreciation in with our mindfulness, or you can call it curiosity or kindness, like this appreciation, then everything starts to become full of wonder. Like that close attention, looking over and over, you know, and I think about that as like just looking at your own fingerprint can give you an unending sense of awe. If you're really like, whoa, like, you know, you like really get in there, and like that kind of deep appreciation and attention to, it can really open us up without even having to like think about it, right? We're just like taking in with appreciation, especially when it comes to, you know, noticing the shifts and changes of the body and that almost that wonder for being alive. I wanted to say one other thing. It's interesting, Noemi, in this chapter, he talks about like not understanding walking meditation. He's like, what is this with people moving slowly? Like that doesn't make you mindful, like, because it's not done as much in this tradition. He said, what I noticed is that the people, you know, who went and spent years in the cave and then would come to the monastery to help teach and support the monks, they didn't move slowly and they didn't do walking meditation, but they were driven by clear purpose and intention. You know, any practice of walking is, you know, driven by that clear purpose and intention. So that was an interesting point he made there. And I do think, that it's so beautiful. Thich Nhat Hanh has so many beautiful writings on like laying our feet with peace on the earth. And, almost as though our feet were transmitting prayers of love to the earth herself. So we really can bring that intention, motivation, however we are walking or sitting. So we're going to do one more practice. If you want to just like stand up for a moment, you are welcome here. Maybe remembering you have a body as you do so. And as you come back to seated, we're just going to spend an extra moment on the kind of more formal 7-point posture. So beginning by really finding a sense of a solid and stable base, whether that's by having your feet on the floor or really feeling kind of your thighs and your sit bones, just feeling them anchored, almost like nestling in or finding this way to feel that support from underneath. And one thing we often do together here is to give ourselves like that openness in the chest and actually the arms a little away from the body. We inhale our shoulders up to the ears, then we exhale out, bring the shoulder blades together, kind of opening that plane, that panel of the chest. Let's do that twice more. And then one more time. Then you want to find a place where the kind of hands can really feel at ease. That could be folded in the lap. That could be hands resting on each thigh. In Tsoknyi's instruction, it doesn't matter which hand is on top. Some traditions have a lot of specificity, and if that's your practice, please do so. And then really finding the length of the spine. Even if you've done this many, many times, imagine it was the very first time that you were noticing, inviting this quality of uprightness, of suppleness of the spine. A slight tuck of the chin that can help the spine feel even more upright. So when the chin is slightly tucked, then the crown of the head is reaching even more directly upward towards the ceiling. And then allow the mouth to feel rested and easeful. Make sure you're not kind of clamping down or clenching. This might be a slight part in the teeth. It could even be a slight part in the lips, just so you are not clenching and holding the jaw together. And while it's more traditional in these Tibetan teachings to have eyes open and soft, often in group settings that can be quite distracting. So instead, just imagine and invite a softening of the eyes. So checking in one more time, solid and stable base. Feeling that openness of the chest, hands in a place that feels supportive and easeful for the shoulders. Soft face, soft mouth, soft eyes, upright spine. And let's begin by bringing attention and awareness to the belly, helping us ground attention and awareness to the base of the body, and inviting all of our energy, our attention, our awareness to descend from the thinking mind into this feeling sense within the body. So for just a while here, stabilizing our attention by noticing the quality of breath coming in and out at the belly. And the mind, of course, will get carried away and distracted, no problem. Relax and release and rejoin with this attending, this close attention to the sensations, the experience of attending closely to the body at the area of the belly through the rise and the fall of the breath. Very gently allowing ourselves to expand and extend this sphere of our awareness and attention throughout the entire body. And for a couple breaths, simply breathing in with this awareness that we are breathing in with the whole body, and breathing out, aware we are breathing out with the whole body. Again, noticing, becoming aware if we get caught up and carried away, and returning back to a simple noticing of the body, bringing our mindful attention and awareness to whatever sensations arise as they arise, and especially noticing the sensations as they dissipate. It could be easy to slip into a bit of fuzziness or dullness as the body feels relaxed. So at the next inhale, really brightening the attention. And finding that precise curiosity. What's the momentary experience of being in this body? What do you notice shifting and changing, arising and falling? Feeling the multiplicity of experiences within this form body. All these various waves and undulations of energy and sensation. How subtle can our noticing get? Maybe an emotion arises or a thought, and we feel that imprint in the body. And gently wait and watch as it slowly dissipates. And then gently noticing the kind of the seams of the body where it meets space around it. Is it possible to maybe notice there's almost a little fuzziness, almost a little permeability between where the rest of everything else begins and where our body ends? And that permeability, that porousness of our body and the space around us. Thank you for your practice. Would love to hear from folks any questions or reflections on your practice. Anything that arose that you noticed.
Thank you for that practice. It was very lovely. I always noticed that prior to coming here, I would meditate to disassociate. So I would meditate to like be out there somewhere in the astrals. And since I started coming on Wednesdays, I've learned to settle into the body. And it's funny because I work with bodies, and I know how difficult that is for many people. But it's just a I notice that when there's a different intention, I can myself sit with pain, and it is difficult to just like focus on pain, but there's a different quality to it when you're breathing your way through. I don't know, for me it's like breathing my way through like a labyrinth or a maze and just finding like gentle but subtle movements where something moves, and I feel that expansion that you talk about. So it's just, I was thinking about that earlier when you posed that question, like, what do you do? And so I used to be out there.
Yeah.
Now I come back. A healthier way for myself is to kind of get away from the body now is reboot. I do the sensory deprivation tank.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
check out.
Oh, really?
And it's, some people don't like it because they feel claustrophobic, but I love it. It's just like sounds off, lights are out. You're in a Epsom salt tank and you're floating. So in about 3 minutes, your body disappears, and
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm so curious, how does that feel different from practice, or, kind of how do you use it in a different way than practice?
But right now when you said, feel where your body, notice where your body ends and makes contact, those lines get very blurred when
Yeah.
you're supported
Yeah.
by water.
Yeah.
And so it's like this, it's the sensation of you don't know where you end or begin.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, I love that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's interesting, I think that feeling of kind of that more porousness of where we begin and where the rest of everything else begins also happens when awareness body opens. But it's almost like, yeah, the sensory deprivation tanks, they're like a little bit of like a hack, right? Which is great. We all need support, and it kind of gives us or it can, that sense, an easier access to maybe that more spacious, expanded, open state. I'm curious, since you've been meditating, to stay here and go out there, how has that changed, like other things in your life, or have you noticed?
So, for one, it's definitely more awareness of the self and the subtle self, or that subtle
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll still do the other meditation
Yeah.
because it's just fun.
Yeah.
But it's a nice way for me to relate to, others and
Yeah.
especially my patients, because it's also from a science perspective, pain is a signal.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we push it away, and so the brain amplifies it. So it's kind of tells you like, hey, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And so likewise, you can pay attention to it and dampen it down, and so I try to teach that. It's like, but first it's like when you come at it, just like, oh, here's pain.
Yeah.
You want to avoid it. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's what literally your body's wired to do that.
Yeah.
So it's just, for me, it's just through sitting with my own pain has helped me understand, other people's pain a little bit better.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Is there a hand online again? Okay, great. Hello.
Hi, Eva. Eve, I believe.
Yes.
I was really hoping to be in person tonight, but I have been really struggling physically and mentally with anxiety and how that impacts my body, and tremendous headaches, and to the point of, wanting to, feeling like I need to vomit. And
Mm.
so anyway, I was really wanting to come, but I needed just like 15 minutes to lay down and try to just chill. And I'm glad I did, because here in my own home, I just can get very comfortable with all the things I need and pillows and whatnot. But so it made the meditation so much, it was just so much easier to be in my body.
Mm.
And even but just noticing how the mind and body connection, with the anxiety is produced by outward stimulation or circumstances that I take internally, and how that impacts the whole body. And one thing that this gentleman who just spoke, I mean, I really noticed that fuzziness along the edges of the body that I had never quite paid attention to before. And it was almost like I could barely feel those edges. And it was
Great.
just interesting and compelling, and I want to do more.
Fantastic. Well, hope to see you in person and glad that it's easeful to be at home. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jessica, do I see your hand there? Hi. Are
Hi.
you cozy?
Yes, heated blanket.
Okay.
Um, I thank you so much for the practice. This was really lovely. I wanted to talk a little bit about the practice, which was good. I think I was having a hard time staying in it. My hip always gets really tight, and so one leg goes numb. So I have a really hard time not getting like messed up by that. So about halfway through, I always have to like kick a leg out just so I'm like not
Yeah.
so that'll throw me off. But um all together today, talking about being in the body, I work I'm a hairstylist, so I work like in person with people, and I tend to work long hours and a little laborious, and I work 3 days in a row, and I find that my fourth day when I'm not working, I come back to my body in a
Mm,
way, and I have to actively do it. I don't just naturally do it. I have to like lay on the floor for a minute like a 2-year-old, and then it will like start to happen
yeah.
again. But it always feels like this weird, it almost feels like a weird glimpse of grief when it happens, even if nothing sad happened. And I think it's really interesting, and I almost wanted to put it out there because I'm not really sure what it is, and I'm curious what if I'm just like holding it all in for like 3 days and then that happens, but
Yeah.
that's been my experience.
Such beautiful noticing, and very subtle. And I realize you can't see everybody in the room because we're not zoomed out, but there was a lot of head nodding as you were
Okay.
saying that. And other thing, just so I remember, like next time we're in person together, let me give you some ideas on sitting
Oh,
because
thank you.
we can totally work that out. And that's not needed. That's
Okay.
just so annoying. So we'll find our way through that. And then, it's interesting you bring that up. I wear this fancy aura ring thing, and in these last weeks of feeling more grief, I've noticed that I'm more stressed when I'm around people. So like not how I roll. Like I love people. I always want to be around people. And I think what I'm noticing is I'm even with the great intentions of people, like I'm suppressing and holding down, which creates more, elevation, escalation, like higher anxiety, not anxiety, just high, suppression is more effortful. And
Mhm.
in the kind of work you're doing directly with people every day, right? I've always said the hairstylists are social workers, psychologists, what else? Lawyers. I don't know. There's like a lot that goes on in
Mhm.
people that they share. So you're doing a lot of emotion labor,
Mhm.
and it actually makes a whole lot of sense to me that and it's so beautiful that you kind of have that natural thing of like, I want to come back to my body and that there's a grief, and that could be also just like missing, like, oh, I'm home,
Yeah.
like, it's like you don't even know until you get home, like, oh, so it's like that return and it's like, oh, sad to have been away. And it's interesting because yes, I think it would be interesting for you to experiment. Like, are there ways throughout the day where you could, like, for a moment, like, return to the body? Like, you don't want to open up your whole system. Like, it's skillful to keep some, just some suppression going, right? And, or some, some of that emotion labor going is needed to keep your job, right? and not feel overwhelmed. But like, I wonder if there's a way to kind of, feet on the floor, relax the body, upright spine, just to come back to some embodied presence. So it might not feel quite so jarring. That's what I'm going to try now as I'm like navigating, this different way of being.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate the
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think, it's such a but it's really cool that you notice, and really cool that you already know what to do, in terms of coming back to the body. So that's, yeah,
Getting there.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's take a moment, dedicate. It's funny, it's like, often so much of our evening is for the sake of all beings throughout woven in, and now we're just doing it at the end. But don't forget everything we have done tonight. Always, always with that, open-hearted bodhicitta in mind. So if it feels comfortable with hands in front of the heart, we do this at the end of our practice as this symbolic gesture of offering. And the offering is to invite any and all energy that has been accumulated from our time together, almost as though we were bringing all of our individual lights to a greater light. And we offer that light to this world and to all beings, that all beings everywhere could know and feel at home in their bodies, that all beings everywhere could feel protected from inner and outer harms, that all beings everywhere could be free. So great to be with you all.